Good evening. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Greg Ferris, President of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees, and I hereby call this Forney ISD Board of Trustees meeting to order at 6 p.m. and certify that a quorum is present and the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required by law. Monthly meetings are open to the public. Although this meeting is public, comments and questions from the audience will be confined to the designated times for citizens to address the board. At this time, we're going to take item number 13 out of order, and the board will convene into closed session. We'll go at 6:01 p.m., and we'll convene in closed session under Texas Government Code 551-129, 551-074, and 551-071. Thank you. Well, good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and we're glad to have you joining us tonight. We will resume our open forum here, starting with item 3, introductions, and our invocation tonight. We're so glad to have with Gary Turner, pastor of First United Methodist Church. He is the third-generation Methodist minister. Reverend Gary Turner has lived and served in many towns across Texas. Reverend Turner is currently serving as the interim pastor for First United Methodist in Forney. He is a graduate of Comanche High School, earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in religion with a speech minor from McMurray College in Abilene, and his Master's of Theology degree from Perkins School of Theology at SMU. He's married to Carol, and they have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. He currently also serves as Associate Chaplain at DFW Airport Interfaith Chaplaincy, which works closely with American Airlines Honor Team in providing a dignified transfer to fallen military for all branches. First United Methodist Church has adopted the Forney Learning Academy and offers additional support and services to our students and staff. One of the activities they provide is they provide graduation cookies and receptions for each graduate from the FLA. Each year they also provide volunteers, and they provide 100 backpacks to our Forney ISD backpack program. They also provide and support families during Christmas, grant Christmas wishes. It is our pleasure to introduce tonight, lead us in invocation, Reverend Gary Turner. If you would please rise.
Thank you so much. I might add one thing, and that is that after being out of our sanctuary for 357 days, we were able, for the first time since last year, to have services in our sanctuary. So we are yesterday, so we are celebrating that. May we pray. Sovereign and merciful God, you are the source of all knowledge and wisdom. You've revealed the design and intelligence of your created order and given we human creatures the capacity to understand. We've come to understand our universe in exponential waves, and at times our cognition has exceeded our moral capacity. I pray that as this board meets for the welfare of this community and its children, that you would give them the wisdom to balance academics with virtue. Loving Lord, this community offers a quality of life which is attractive to the many who are seeking a better quality of life for their families. With this growth comes challenges. Give wisdom to this board to meet those challenges, that all may be blessed by their decisions. I pray in your most blessed name. Amen.
This time we'll move on to item B, our pledges. I'd like to introduce Ms. Courtney Rodriguez, Mr. Josh Garcia, and Mr. Lord Ashcraft as they introduce our students of the month.
All right, good evening, Dr. Terry, Mr. Ferris, members of the board. Sorry, I'm opening up my speech here. I am Courtney Rodriguez, principal at Smith Intermediate. I'm honored to be here tonight to present Christian Andrus as Smith Intermediate Student of the Month. Christian is a 6th grade student and is the daughter of Jason and Jessica Valadez. Christian has many siblings in her blended family, as well as several pets. She loves spending time with her cat, her dogs, and her rats. I asked her if we could call them hamsters. She said they're very different, but they are very sweet. Christian loves spending time with her friends at school and looks forward to going to college in Kentucky. She dreams of becoming a singer, but due to stage fright, she is considering a career with the FBI. Currently, she enjoys reading, caring for siblings, playing soccer, and listening to music. Christian's teachers say that she is positive, determined, and hardworking. She strives to always meet her personal goals as well as serving those around her to help them be successful. She has a can-do attitude, which makes her a great role model for others, and she excels academically, sets herself to a very high standard. She is a true joy to have in class because she lifts up everyone around her. She always comes to class prepared and is the definition of a true team player. She is selfless. You will always see her offering a helping hand on campus. She is a light at Smith, and I hope that she continues to shine bright. So again, I'm proud to present Christian Andrus as Smith Intermediate Student of the Month. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Dr. Terry, School Board. This evening, I'd like to recognize our Warren Student of the Month, Miss Aria Price. Aria is here tonight with her parents, Charles and Erica Price, and her brother, her 10-year-old brother, Alan, over there. Aria is in the 8th grade, and she is heavily involved in various clubs and organizations throughout our campus, such as Advanced Theater, Girls Athletics, president of the National Junior Honor Society, and is in all advanced courses. Her teachers had nothing but incredible things to say about Aria. Her history teacher went on and expressed how she is such a hard worker and always goes above and beyond, always helping out her peers. Many of her teachers stated how she is just always smiling and appears to never have a bad day, just always has a positive spirit. Ms. Joseph stated that she is the embodiment of a model student. She is diligent, respectful, caring, supportive, encouraging of her peers, and exemplifies the warrior way in all that she does. And her teachers just went on and on about all the great things. When Aria isn't focused on academics, she loves to run track and sing in her free time, and she has an amazing voice. Her favorite subject is theater because she says the stage just feels like home to her. She loves performing and hopes to have a future in that one day. Her ultimate dream is to be on Broadway and/or compete in the Olympics. It is my honor again to recognize Ms. Aria Price as our Warren Student of the Month.
All right. Good evening, and thank you, school board members and Dr. Terry, for allowing me to be here to present Crosby's Student of the Month. Mr. Johnny Dunn is a 4th grader on our campus, and he's also a member of our welcome crew. One thing about Johnny, you can always count on him being where he is assigned to that morning. He's always opening doors, greeting kiddos with a smile. He's always around campus helping teachers in whatever way that they need. His teacher said that he exemplifies many of our Forney ISD values. He's quick to share his thoughts and ask questions as he engages and actively participates in learning. Of course, setting a high standard of excellence for both himself and his peers. He thrives most, though, when he's presented with an opportunity to collaborate with others. He really has a servant's heart, and he loves to help. Johnny's the type of student who will leave his mark wherever he goes. His loving, helpful, and hardworking attitude make him an outstanding choice for Crosby Cougar.
If you would rise for our pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, moving on to item number 4 in recognition, student recognitions. We'll start with Mr. Mario Luna as our Fine Arts Director. Mr. Luna?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, and school board. Yes, we have 3 all-state musicians to recognize tonight from Forney High School. Actually, we usually we recognize these the month after, but we're going to do it this month. And they are heading down to San Antonio on Wednesday. So these students start in August, and they work on this concert music during marching band season and all that. Over 60,000 students try out, and between 1,600 and 1,800 students are selected for the all-state process. This is the highest honor a high school student can receive as a musician, and only 3% of musicians who audition are all-state musicians. So our first one that we would like to recognize is Leanne Crockett, our percussionist. Our next one is Caden Stelick. And I will add to him, he is the second chair trumpet player, which means he is the second best trumpet player in the state of Texas. You say, wow, but wait. And we have Brittany Harris. She is a bassoon player, and she is the first chair bassoon player in the state. So she is, yep. So, that is a huge, huge, huge honor. To be all state, but to be first in the state is a huge deal. So we've got our band directors here and family of our musicians, if they want to come up here for a picture.
We'll now move on to our staff recognitions. This is a very, very special award for a very, very special person. So I'd like to welcome up Mr. Mario Luna again to introduce the Yamaha 40 Under 40.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, and board again. We found out about 2 weeks ago that one of our staff members was recognized as a 40 Under 40 award, which means there's 40 educators in the United States that were selected for this award. All over the United States. And I was told there was hundreds of applications, not like, there was 6 and they picked, or something like that, but there was hundreds. The 40 Under 40, it's 40 exceptional music educators under the age of 40, possessing action, courage, creativity, and growth characteristics while going above and beyond when instructing music education. Mr. Cody Newman at Forney High School was selected, and I'll say for the first time to him, I was the one that did the nomination on his behalf. And just, it was a survey type form and an essay part that I filled out, and I just took a chance, and it was selected just because of what he does at Forney High and, just who he is. So, Mr. Cody Newman from Forney High School Band, would you come up here, please? Oh, okay. Thank you so much. His family can't be here because his sister-in-law is getting engaged in 30 minutes, his wife told me. So she could not be here, even though I said, hey, this is a one-in-a-lifetime thing, but I guess the other thing is too. So here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. I told Mr. Newman I was waiting for my call to get my 60 under 60 award, but I haven't got it yet. So. We're going to take a 5-minute recess right here, and then we'll reconvene with our reports. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, our reports. We'll start with our monthly financial report. Mr. John Chase, Chief Financial Officer. Mr. Chase?
I think it's on now. The financial report for the month ending December 31st, 2021 was included in your board packet for review. Just to start off with the highlights, beginning with the general fund, year-to-date revenue collected was $68.2 million, or 53% of the amount estimated. And as for comparative purposes, prior year at this same point in time, we were at 36%, and there's a pretty wide degree of variation there between the percent collections. And last year at this time, our tax collections were a little lighter than what they had been historically, and we attributed that to the fact that the first of the year fell on a Friday that year, or last year, and so I think there was a fewer days in that last week of December to collect taxes, and so it kind of had an impact on the tax collections for December for that year. But when we ended the year this last year, our total tax collections, as you know, when we reported it to you, we were right back in the same percent collections that we normally have year over year. So in really good shape in this year as well. Moving on to the expenditure side, year-to-date expenses was $66.7 million, or 48% of the amount appropriated. And for prior year, in comparison again, we were at 45% at the same point in time, and there's a 3 percentage point swing. And that's basically attributed to the fact that we've got a construction project that we're funding out of the general fund this year. We spent a little over $5 million to this point, and that certainly accounts for nearly all of that 3% variation. Moving on to food service revenue, year-to-date collected was $3.5 million. That's 65% of the amount estimated. Certainly, this in the half of the year, you would think you'd be about 50% collected. So we're certainly well above that, and that will give us an opportunity at the end of this year to maybe recoup some revenue over in our general fund through that indirect cross reimbursement, like we have done in years past, but not including last year, of course, but really strong revenue collections right now. As you know, we're still serving the free lunches for all students this year, and it's having a pretty substantial impact on the amount of federal reimbursements that we get. Since December was a short month, we only served 2 weeks that month. We actually turned in our federal reimbursement before we went out on break, and so we got the collections for December and November in the month of December, which is about $1.2 million if you combine both those months. We had free meals served that month of $92,000. And a la carte sales of $87,000. And again, those are a lot less than what it's in a typical month. But again, we only served two weeks out of that month. Prior year revenue, just as a comparison, we were at 21%. But again, we had a coronavirus pandemic. A lot of our kids were at home. We weren't doing near the activity that we're doing this year. So, looking really good revenue-wise in food service. Moving on to expenses, year to date, we're at $2.6 million, or 49% of the amount appropriated. In prior year, we were at this same point in time, we're about 35%, but again, coronavirus had a substantial impact on our revenue and expenses in the food service fund. Moving on to debt service, year-to-date revenue collected was $17.3 million, or 52% of the amount estimated. In prior year, again, at this time, we were only at 19%, but for the same reason, the general fund, the tax collections last year was lagging behind because of the short week in December and due to the holiday. And finally, in the debt service expenditures, year-to-date, we were at $20.9 million, or 69% of the amount appropriated. And last year at this time, we were at 73%, but we're in pretty good shape in the debt service fund, where we expect to be this time of year, based on the interest and principal that we've made payments on so far. And finally, the cash and investments on hand at the end of December was about 53, a little over 53, $153 million. And that included general fund, food service, debt service, and capital projects. And about 43% or so of that 153 million is our capital project funds. We're spending that balance down pretty quickly. As you know, we're going to sell some more bonds here in February to finish some of the construction projects that we have going on at this point. But all in all, we're in good shape. Financial report through December. No big surprises here. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Any questions from the board? Yes, sir.
John, are we being impacted with supply chain issues in food procurement like we were previously, or are we still going through that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's some things that we can't get, like the plastic and some of the serving ware that we were using. You know, we've switched over and started using trays and some things like that now that are washable and some things of that nature. But you know, there are some impacts, but as far as, you know, the food that we're serving, I think we're still being able to serve most of what we want to serve. I mean, there's a few things that we can't get, but all in all, I think it's okay. You got anything else you'd like to add to that, Kim?
No, I think John did a pretty good job answering that, Scott. Every week it's a little bit different, and so we've had to do some substitutions, but we're doing pretty well with Region 10 and the co-op. So.
Are the food cost increases you're seeing across the nation double digits, right? How is that impacting us from a financial perspective?
Yeah. And that's a good question, and in fact, I had a conversation with Tracy, our food service director, last week. She was looking at some of the purchasing and some of her purchase orders that she had open, and they were looking at it as a team, trying to figure out if it was going to be enough to make it to the end of the year. And it may be likely that we might have to amend the budget to upwards a little bit, but as you saw on the revenue side, we're going to more than make up for that. So if we have to come back to you and amend the budget a little bit for the cost increases, we're going to have more than enough revenue to cover it.
Okay, moving on then to item B, quarterly investment report. Mr. Chase.
Just the cash investments again on hand at the end of December 21 was almost $155 million. That money was on deposit at our local depository or one of 3 investment pools. The interest rate that we earned on these deposits again are really, really low. It's 3/100% as low as that, or as much as 1/4%. So historically low interest rates right now. We're not earning a lot on money. I will say, just anecdotally, I've heard the feds, they've met and even put out statements here lately that it seems like that they've got some appetite about raising interest rates here coming soon. So as soon as that starts happening, these interest rates should start picking up, and we should start earning a little more on our money on deposit. But through the quarter, on $155 million, we earned a whopping $23,000 worth in interest, which is basically nothing. So that's just the environment we're in. There's not a lot of money to be had out there on short-term investments. But that's the quarterly investment report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Anything from the board? I hear none. We're moving on to item C, second quarter tax collections.
Just in our first quarter, as we pointed out, well, if I can get this thing to work right for me here. It helps if I point the right arrow. Our total tax valuation for the year that we're taxing on was $6.5 billion. That translates into a tax levy right before that bubble I just highlighted there of just shy of 89 million. To date, we've collected 45.7 million, or about 51% of our tax levy, which is pretty common in this time of year where we expect to be. Down there in the note, the 5-year average was about 40% through December, and that's skewed a little bit again because last year's collection percentage rate was a little low. But 50% this time of year is pretty common, so we're in pretty good shape there. As far as our taxes from prior years, delinquent taxes, we collected $450,000, or right at half. If you express that as a percentage of our current year levy, it's right at 0.5%. That's a little lower than where we've been this time of year, and I think part of the reason for that is that we don't have as much ag rollback tax adjustments to our tax roll this year as we have had in prior years. If you look over here on this column, this adjusted roll from delinquent years, you can see prior to this year we had upwards of $1 million in adjustments to our tax levy, our tax roll, delinquent tax roll in those years, and so $68,000 is not really a whole lot at this point. So, I fully expect that our delinquent tax collections will be a lot smaller as a percentage of our total levy in this year than last, unless there's a lot more rollback taxes that get added to our roll this year after this point. But even that said, we usually budget about 100% of our total tax levy as far as collections and our revenues, and that's when we put delinquent taxes in with that, and so we'll be really close to that in any event. So that's the quarterly tax report, and I'd be happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Any questions? I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item D, it's our Future Ready update. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Sarah Smith, Coordinator of College Career and Readiness, to come to the mic, please.
Thank you, Dr. Terry, Mr. Ferris, and members of the board. Up here with me is also Shelby Prado. She is our district CTE coordinator. So we will just be going through where we are with our Future Ready program and where we're headed. Partnership with Dallas College. With Dallas College, we still have free tuition for all of our dual credit students, and then we have in-district tuition for our staff and community, which basically means they get half the tuition rate that out-of-district would get. We have 598 students taking over 1,200 credit hours, which when we started this partnership, we had less than 100 students, so it has grown exponentially. We have 9 students, actually a few more than that, students that are on track to graduate either in May or this summer with an associate degree. So they'll graduate their high school diploma and associate degree. And that will just continue to grow. Our first Collegiate Academy cohort was 2 years ago, and we had 45 students enrolled. We currently have 95 students enrolled, and over 175 students have already applied for the next school year. So all of those students are students that are on track to graduate with their associate degree as well. As far as our partnership with our community members, we have 65 current community staff or community members or staff members using the in-district tuition. When we started the Forney family, we only had 4, so that has already grown quite a bit this year. And we're continuing to offer different CTE programming opportunities as far as welding, HVAC, and next year we are going to be adding some health science as well. What we're doing for our students as far as testing, we are still going to have our ACT school day, which means all juniors in the spring will take the ACT free of charge, that we will make it available for every student to take it so that it doesn't get hindered based on Saturdays or needing transportation. This year so far, we have already tested over 300 students through 9th and 12th grade on TSIA-2, which is the college readiness exam. And in the spring, we'll continue to test quite a few students. And ASVAB, which is for our military, we already have tested 56 students at Forney High, and we have 96 students signed up to take it in the spring at North Forney.
Okay, so for our in real life curriculum for this semester for our 5th through 8th graders, really getting into the meat of being college and career ready. When we came back from Christmas break, our students went right into understanding what endorsements are, what a program of study means, and what CTE looks like in high school. This week and in the next coming weeks, the high school counselors will be at all 3 of our middle schools so they can, choose their endorsement and choose their classes for next year. So A lot of career and college exploration. We've got some service projects in there. And then another really big component of this, which so many parents and students were excited about, was that personal finance component. So that will be a huge portion of the curriculum for this coming semester. So we have, out of all of our CTE programs, we have 3 that kind of culminate in our practicum courses, the level 4 courses for our programs of study. So we have 3 open to the public right now. So this is kind of where they're standing. Since we've opened the school year and we officially opened to the public in October, we've served over 350 meals at the local with over 25 catering events. And as obviously the OC becomes more important to Forney ISD and more in the middle of everything, catering will become a much bigger deal as well. So that's exciting that we've got that many under our belt so far. Blooms, which is new this year, it's our floral design practicum, if you will. 650 floral arrangements created between North Forney High School and Forney High School just this year. And that is not just making them in class, that's for auctions, selling them for different fundraisers. So, I mean, they are. We had no intention of opening to the public this early, but those teachers really hit the ground running and got excited and wanted to give our students those opportunities. For Off the Leash, 231 dogs serviced so far since we opened officially in October. With several of those dogs, they're loyal customers. They're, in there every day. And then the barn has gotten quite busy as well. 51 animals at the Animal Science Center this year. Obviously, we will continue to have more practicums that culminate in these, internships that give our students the opportunities in those actual fields. So where are we headed? Well, you guys know that we have a ton of programs of study that we're starting for next year. Automotive tech, and this is based off of what students have been, saying for a long time. We want this. This school has this. Automotive tech, cosmetology, fashion design, music production, hospitality, fire science, construction management, and horticulture. Again, we plan for all of these to have to culminate in the certification and a practicum where they can actually get that either paid or non-paid experience in that endorsement in that program of study. But the school year is not over. We have tons of different opportunities for our Future Ready program and our Future Ready department. We've got a really exciting esports program that, as of this morning, we had like 50 or 60 kids. Yeah. And then we've got a lot of after-school STEAM camps coming up. We're planning to have a Forney Family Job Fair, not just for our high school students, but for the community as well. And the breakfast for the local, we have that coming up. Hopefully we'll have that started by spring break. So we'll be opening up the local, not just for lunch, but for a couple of breakfast days as well. And then offering ACT and SAT during school days and Saturday SAT prep. So lots of opportunities for our students coming up and our community for Future Ready. You guys have any questions?
Great presentation. Any questions from the board? Dr. Terry, would you like to add anything?
No, just really appreciative of the progress our team's making. Lots of big vision, huge direction for where we're headed. With the OC, it obviously takes a little bit of a ramp up to get going. And just kudos, Robin couldn't make it with us tonight, but to these two and the work that they've been doing and all of our staff. Pretty exciting to say that we're actually running 3 student-led businesses within our school district, and that looks to grow over the next few years as well. So. Again, can't appreciate enough either Dallas College and our continued partnership there to receive the benefits of in-district tuition and free tuition for our students without passing on up to a 13-cent tax in many communities is huge, and that takes a lot of work. But also we appreciate our board for engaging in that partnership. So excited about what the future holds.
We've come a long way, and thank you for your leadership. Moving on then to item E, master planning update as we continue this. Ms. Morzak and her guests.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, Board. Jeff Fisher from Gallagher Construction is going to give you an update, and I think for once he probably knows more than I do because I was out of town for TASA, and then the ice came, so I haven't actually been to any of the sites yet this week. So Jeff, dazzle them.
Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, members of the board, good to be with you again. And unlike Kim, I did work Thursday and Friday. I'm not saying that I was on these jobs, but I was working, doing something. Start out at the Aquatic Center. That project's coming along pretty good. The pool enclosure structure is going along kind of slow, but they are starting to put some of the panels in the structure and getting the support building up and running, or getting it waterproofed and ready for brick to go on it. So that one's coming along fairly well. North Forney High School Fieldhouse, getting the finishing touches on it this month. The fields are usable. I think they're actually practicing on them now. The plaza area is nearing completion. Batting cages you can see in the upper right-hand corner. Paint, they've been painted, be ready for punch list pretty soon. And then the building itself, putting some final touches on the exterior and interior and getting that ready for punch list. The track surface is supposed to be installed sometime last week or this week, but the weather last week did hurt us on that, so I think they're trying to get that scheduled to be done this week. Johnson Elementary School is coming along very well. We did get the TXDOT inspections that will allow us to do the connection to 548 for that emergency access, so we'll be able to get that buttoned up. Inside, the project's coming along very, very well. Different stages in different areas of the project. Some of it's being prepped for paint. Some of it, they're still framing drywall, just kind of moving through the process. Most of the roof is complete, and the storm shelter is structurally is complete as well. Willett is in basically the same shape as Johnson. Again, I think I told y'all last time that the two superintendents on those jobs are racing, seeing which one can finish first. So they're doing real well. Again, different areas of the project are in different stages, just depending on the flow of the project. So some areas are getting ready to paint. They've got ceramic tile going on the walls. Other areas, they're finishing up the framing and working on the ceilings. Again, that one's coming along very well. That's just some more pictures of Willett. And then last but not least, by any means, is Opportunity Central. That one's in the early stages, obviously. We've got the site work going on. You can see in these pictures a bunch of dirt and some pipe. After Thursday and Friday, there was also a bunch of water, so we've been working on getting that pumped over the weekend and trying to get it dried out so we can get back out there and start working again. And that concludes the report. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Jeff, would you go back and explain the exit you referenced on 548, just so everybody's clear with what's going on there?
Oh, sure. That would be on Johnson. So on the southeast corner of the project, there's an emergency access that the city wanted for a secondary way for fire trucks and ambulances to get onto the site in case the road was blocked on the other side. So what we had to do there is we had to lower some water lines and put a box culvert in, and then we're paving across that. It'll have a gate across it with a Knox lock on it so that it's not used by the public during the day, but it will be in use for emergency access in case that need might arise.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from the board? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Thank you for working Friday. It's exciting to get to see the OC up there now. We've been waiting, and now you'll get weekly updates. So Gallagher made a genius move. They actually took the superintendent from Willett and put him over both projects. So he's now going to make sure they both finish at the same time. So they're just looking really good. I just kind of want to finish up the master plan presentation day and just remind you guys of all the rest of the approved projects and kind of show you where we are in that process. We're continuing to work with Huckabee. Daniel's here today to finish up these designs and get moving so that Gallagher can bid these jobs as well. So this is the site plan at North Forney. And as you know, we have all that land all the way to 548. So the ninth grade center is starting, and I'm actually going to get to show you some renderings of that this evening. The bus barn expansion is going to happen on that site, and that's that yellow square over there. And then elementary 10, as you know, we've moved it up to Falcon Way, so that's on the left side of your screen there. And then behind that is the land that we gave to, donate to Kaufman County for that substation. So that's kind of been pushed back off the road. And then it shows the infrastructure that will be added just to give some, a little bit better flow over there at North Forney. Here's a rendering of the ninth grade center. We got this from Huckabee last week, and I'm actually going to be able to show you two different angles. But it's, as you can see, a beautiful building. The metal panels on the top mimic the metal panels that are on North Forney now, and then that brick will match the brick on North Forney. Here's another angle, just showing you that pop of blue to kind of bring some color to the building and brand it. The North Forney logo's there on the first slide. So really going to be a really pretty building. Then at Forney High School, just as you remember, we are going to do a ninth grade center there as well, which is going to require us to move those tennis courts. We do about to see some movement on that parking expansion. You'll hear about that. I think it's in consent actually tonight, and then have some renderings of Forney High School as well. So similar design, just a little bit different colors. So you see where it was the blue trim, you have that Forney yellow. Not a whole lot of it, but just enough to kind of bring some of that color and that pop to the building. A little bit different brick pattern and design, but those metal panels are mimicked just a little bit different in the areas that they exist. And so that's just another little rendering showing you from what would be the parking lot. So really cool looking buildings. In addition to that, elementary school, I told you elementary school number 10, it's in there. And as a reminder, that building is going to be able to be built from savings from all the other projects. We were able to bring that in the last bond. That's all I have this evening. If you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Morsak. Any questions from the board? I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on then to public forum. The board will hear comments from the audience during this time. We will have one speaker tonight. Mr. Chris Seaman, if you'd start making your way up. As you're coming, I will remind you, the board will allot 3 minutes for tonight's public comment portion of the meeting. Each speaker, you will have this 3 minutes. Please respect the privacy of others and refrain from identifying students and employees and other community members by name. The board requires the comments on any subject, whether positive or negative, be courteous and respectful. Disruptions of the meeting will not be tolerated at any time. Any speaker with a specified complaint about a district employee, decision, or operational issues should present them to the complaints through the appropriate mechanisms, which is the district's formal grievance process. Speakers who provide detailed information with a specific complaint will be stopped and will be referred to district administration to continue. The board may not respond to comments that are made during this presentation and questions asked from the public. Mr. Seaman, you may start.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. I do want to say I appreciate all the work the board does, superintendent, all your staff, teachers. They're very appreciative of that. I'm not here as an antagonist. But I do want to talk about the access situation at the Lewis Elementary back gate there. I know I've been talking with some of the Forney ISD staff about it. It's the one off of Lenham and Clements Ranch. So before the start of the school year, the parents were assured that there would be access to a back gate there for student walkers right off the sidewalk. It was kind of given as a reason for there's no busing there, and it was generally an acceptable solution for accessing the school. The school built the sidewalk. It looked like there was preparations being made to secure that access, permanently. The conclusion I personally drew from that was that there was an easement secured for access, public access there, and that it would continue to be the access. Last week we were informed that no longer allowed to use that access due to the property owners claiming that they would begin trespassing people for walking across about a 10-foot span of grass there. The alternative route that was proposed was unpaved access between the property owners' back fences and a retention pond back in some utility When you look at the area in question, the most obviously safe route for the students to take to the school is along the sidewalk to that original back gate access in public view. I think it's within the capacity of Forney ISD to secure that access easement, the original access easement to the first gate, if none exists. But when I look at the utility easements in the neighborhood plat, there is no gap between the existing sidewalk easement and Forney ISD property. They butt right up against each other. I've sent those documents to some of your staff. It doesn't look like there's private property. I agree on the CAD website, it looks like there's private property there. But 4 different surveys signed by surveyors for different things, different easements, utility easements. There's no gap. It looks like you could walk right off the sidewalk into Forney ISD property. Yeah, the developer told me today that, so the neighborhood developer, they're going to be installing a sidewalk in that secondary pathway. Again, that's out of the public view. I don't think that's an acceptable answer to achieving the solution here. Plus, we're going to run, if there's no easement on one, we're going to run into the same easement problem on the other. What's preventing us from just having the HOA or some person say, oh, I have another survey, that's my property, I'm going to start trespassing people on that sidewalk now. It's my preference that the original access be restored, the alternate route, that plan just be abandoned until we get some resolution. What's not acceptable is for the school to simply close the access and attempt to alleviate the problem. That access, it needs to stay open for the neighborhood access to the school. And just close by saying that original access is obviously the safest access. When you go up there and look at the area yourself, that secondary access is not sufficient. That's it. See my time run out. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Chris, for coming by tonight. Moving on then to item 8, consent agenda. Our consent agenda 8A is approved minutes from January 10th, 2022 meeting. 8B, approve the budget amendment. 8C, approve Forney High School parking expansion. 8D, approve auditor's contract. 8E, approve a purchase of the VV classroom audio. 8F, approve the file server replacement. 8G, approve the wide area network. H, approve the copier lease. I, ratification resolution of pay employees in the event of a school closure. J, statement of impact forms. The board may take action on these separately or collectively. Do I have a motion from the board? I have a motion by Ms. Stops. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Number 9, moving on to 9, consideration possible approval of 2023 full-time equivalent positions. Mr. John Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As you know, this time of the year is when we begin our mad dash to developing a budget for the following school year. And as you would expect, as in every year, the biggest part of our budget is payroll, and so we spend quite a bit of time trying to develop plans for that and trying to hire for that. And so tonight we're here to ask the board to approve the addition of 299 personnel units to our next year's budget, and that would break down as to 169 teaching positions and then 130 staff members for all of their support. Would remind you that we are opening a new campus next year, Willett Elementary, as well as I guess you'd call it maybe a half a campus because the capacity of Johnson is actually a lot more than the existing Johnson Elementary. So staffing those campuses and getting ready for the addition of 2,400 additional students that the demographer is saying is going to be coming at us would require us to hire these staff members. I would point out that during our budget process last year, we developed a budget on 14,072 students. We actually ended up this year with 14,300 and almost 50 students. So we were a little short in our 9-to-1 last year, and so when you add that 2,400 in the 200 plus short that we were short there, and and divide by 9 to get to, that's how we got to the 299 positions that you see here. We're still within our staffing ratios as far as what's acceptable by TEA on a student teacher and student total staff, as you can see in the memo that we put before you in the board book. And so our revenue estimates would include, we believe these additional 2,400 students plus, we're going to net a little over $18 million in change. Not to mention that we'll have some additional fast growth allotment money this year that we didn't have last year. I think this year we had about $5.5 million or something like that, and we're projecting about $8.5 million for next year, just because this year we grew 1,500 or so students, almost 1,600, and that will be used as the basis to develop what our fast growth allotment is for next year. Oddly enough, there's a year lag, so this 2,400 that we're going to have this next school year, we won't actually realize the effect of that fast growth money until the following fiscal year. But even with that, and even with just this last year of almost 1,600 growth, we're projecting that our growth allotment will be $8.5 million, which is about $3 million more than we got this year. So all that said, we feel like we're in pretty good shape as far as revenues to be able to support these positions, and our recommendation is that you approve this staffing allocation as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We, just as we've done in the past, we will put multiple safety nets in place. We're looking at, I think, holding back around, right around $4.5 to $5 million, which is equivalent to about 700 students not showing up the first day. So we'll make sure that we've got a nice safety net for our staffing allocation. I know over 2,400 students is a lot of students to add, so we need a lot of staff to support that, but we want to ensure the board that we do have multiple safety nets, and we'll release projects just as we did this year as the students do enroll. So we are still seeing I think we're over 14,700 today, so we're still seeing steep enrollment even throughout the spring right now. So we are excited to get started in the hiring process, and would propose that you approve the 299 additional FTEs for 2022-23 school year.
Thank you very much. You've heard Mr. Chase and Dr. Terry's recommendation. Do I have a motion from the board?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion that the board approve the 2022-23 full-time equivalent positions as presented and recommended by the administration.
Thank you, Ms. Green. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Andrews, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to item 10, consideration and possible approval of Claiborne HVAC replacement. Kim Morsack, back to the mic.
Thank you, Ms. Ferris. I'm actually going to invite Jeff Fisher from Gallagher Construction up to talk to you about the bids for Claiborne's HVAC replacement. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Ms. Morsack, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, members of the board. Hello again. We took proposals for the HVAC and controls replacement at Claiborne Elementary School on January the 18th and received 4 complete bids for that scope of work. We've gone through the scope of work with the apparent low proposer, and they've assured us that they've included everything that needed to be included for the bid. So we're recommending tonight an award of contract to Texas General Mechanical for the HVAC and DDC replacement at Claiborne and associated design and construction management fees.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. We would like to approve, this has been on a 5-year maintenance plan for us, so we'd like to propose approval tonight of the HVAC at Claiborne as presented.
Board, you've heard the recommendations. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion the board approve the Claiborne HVAC replacement as presented.
Mr. Andrews has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Dobbs. Ms. Bateman?
That's what I thought.
You got me now.
So I have a motion by Andrews, a second by Bateman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to item 11, consideration and possible approval of the school bus purchase. Mr. Chase?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Again, with the addition of 2,400 students next year, we have to provide busing service for those students. And this past year, just to bring you to your recollection, we added almost 1,600 students, and we added 10 buses this past year. And so what we're seeing tonight is the Transportation Department feels like that we need 20 buses for the next school year to serve these additional kids, 17 of which will be regular transportation, 77 passenger buses, and 3 of those buses would be outfitted with a wheelchair lift to serve our special needs kids. So the total cost of the 20 buses would, including the buy board fee, which is what we normally purchase our school buses from. We buy the international school buses from Lone Star Bus Sales. It keeps consistency within our fleet, and they have again a contract that's already been negotiated through the buy board, and that fee to use the contract is $800. But the total cost, including that fee, would be $2,318,183. And just like in past years, we're not planning on purchasing these buses until after July 1, which is when our next fiscal year starts. But we need to order them now, just to make sure that we get ahead of the supply chain and make sure that these things get here before the school year starts. And so our recommendation is tonight that the board approve this purchase of 20 school buses from Longhorn Bus Sales as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. And Dr. Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. We recommend the approval tonight of the 20 school buses, and I'd like to make one note. We are hiring bus drivers at over $21 an hour. Please pass it on. Thank you.
Board, you've heard the motion, heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that we approve the school bus purchase as recommended.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Andrews? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? I hear none. Moving on then to item 12, consideration possible approval of the wireless network. Mr. Chase?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Just by way of introduction, I would say about 7 years ago, we were, maybe a little over now, we were discussing this wireless network upgrade at that time. It's been 7 years since we've done that, and the wireless access points in our network is at end of life. We have Cisco access points in the district, and the access points that we have, we're no longer going to be able to get support on those points after this year. So it's time to replace the access points. And so we went out to bid in December, and we actually had the deadline set for January 4th. The technology department reviewed the proposals that were submitted. We only got 2 back from NetSync and Splendid, and those 2 companies have done a significant amount of work for us in the past on other projects, and so they're both very top-notch. We respected companies that do business for us. We did ask for quotes in two different ways, option 1 and option 2. Option 2 being the latest model that they have, and the technology department felt like that was the best approach to go. It's a little more expensive, but they won't be end of life as nearly as quickly as an earlier model. So that will at least carry us for another 7 to 10 years, hopefully, if we do that. So our recommendation is tonight then is that we would award a contract to NetSync Network Solutions for Cisco wireless access network, totaling $1,650,784. And that will not occur until July, so this will be a budget item in the 23 budget. When we have our next budget workshop, we'll include that on that budget, should you guys approve this tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, any other comments?
No, we are on track for this upgrade. This was part of some of the discussion we had 7 years ago when we put this in. So it's time, and our kids are using technology, so we recommend approval of the wireless network upgrade as presented.
Any other questions from the board? Do I have a motion?
President Ferris, I make a motion that the board approve the wireless network upgrade as presented and recommended.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Green. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Next item is closed session. That was taken earlier out of order, so moving on then to item 14, consideration possible approval regarding the employment of professional contract personnel. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion the board approve the ratification of employment of professional contract personnel as discussed in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Ms. Dobbs? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to item 15, consideration and possible approval of a contract renewal of administrators and other professional contracts personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074, personnel matters. May I have a motion, please?
President Ferris, I make a motion that the board approve the contract renewal of administrators and other professional contract personnel as discussed in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. I have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Bateman? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to 16, consideration and possible action regarding pursuant to sanctions for educator abandonment of contract. May I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that the board find good cause did not exist for Bethany Harper to abandon her contract with one FISD and authorize the superintendent to take all necessary steps to report this matter to the State Board of Educator Certification for further action.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Andrews, and a second. You have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to number 17, announcements. Thursday, February 17th at 6 p.m., a special called meeting. Then Friday the 18th is still having a holiday?
Yes, sir. We'll still have a holiday on the 18th. However, we get to see our wonderful children on the 21st, and we're so excited about that due to the ice. So just one edit, since we did print these, is Monday, February 21st will be a makeup day for staff and students.
And then our regular board meeting, as you see there on the 28th, so mark your calendars for that. Watch your emails for any updates to these calendars. At this time, it is now 8:06 p.m., and we'll call this meeting adjourned.